When you get into your car and you're going from point A to point B, it could be like, hey, I got to go to Walmart. I got to go to the restaurant. I got to go to a grocery store. When you get into your car, you don't think about the red lights that's ahead of you. It's when you get there, that's when you deal with the red light and you shift, which is stop. When you shift and you slow down and you stop. So in life, you want to do the same. You want to get in your car, which is your life. You want to get in your car and keep moving forward. And if you're lost right now, at some point, you're going to self-correct and you'll be on the main road and you'll be back on track. So keep moving forward. It's going to come. Believe that. It will come.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we inspire, we motivate, and we encourage you. But most important of all, we give you some business savvy, some little golden nuggets to elevate yourself as a small business owner or an entrepreneur. And I'll tell you, I had the pleasure of being at this gentleman's event right here. A great man, great person, great entrepreneur, Mr. Andy Audate. How you doing, my brother? Woo-woo!
I'm amazing, man. And I'm grateful tonight to be on the other side. I'm usually the one doing the interview, but I'm grateful to be on the other side and be on this deal with you, man. How you feeling, Daniel?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I was first introduced to you almost, 2 years ago. And they were like, yeah, there's this big old conference in Dallas, Texas. It's called Progression. And I'm like, well, who is this Progression guy? I was looking it up, doing some research. And I was like, whoa, you know what? I said, yeah, he's worth the investment. So I invested in a ticket, took a drive up to Dallas. Actually had a day and a half over there, had a good time. And man, I'll tell you what, I had a great time at your conference. You really put on a great show. And man, I love to just really support people. I think so many times in our realm, we compare with each other, or we compete. And no, it's like support. And when you celebrate other people, I'll tell you what, man, I was just really impressed with what you did, because I was more impressed because it was out of your city and you had this great audience in Dallas. So congratulations on your successes you've been having. But man, I know the amazing person you are, Andy. Tell the audience of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, who is Andy Audate, man?
Well, first of all, I'm I'm a loving individual. I'm an ambitious individual that is just determined to see transformation. And I think that's what really drives me, is when I see a consistent growth or some type of transformation. Like you see something before, you see something after. And really for me, what area really drives me is in the part of like financial expansion. Because where I come from, where I was raised, I came from an impoverished environment, and I recognized that, hey, you know what, I want to win myself. And now that I created, financial gain for myself, I wanted to now see it in other people.
Yeah, I got to say that because I remember when we were there at your conference, there was a picture of you prior and a picture after your progression, man. And I got to say, I think you even shared it on your slideshow. It was a huge difference, man. So let me ask you this. What was the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome to become the Andy Audate you are today? Because I think people need to hear that, right? Because we see the success you've had, but I know I had to overcome some demons. What was one of the two biggest obstacles you had to overcome, Andy?
Just so we're on the same page, when we talk about the success I've had, I've created my businesses entirely has generated over $4 million in sales single-handedly with me and my team. My first million, I did it at 21. So from 19, I started the business. By 21, I made my first $1 million. And then I just grown ever since. And I've owned cell phone stores and marketing companies. But really, I think I promote myself in the world of entrepreneurship. And I think the biggest challenge that I personally have experienced has been self-doubt. Overcoming this experience of self-doubt has really been the fight, because I think the voice of what I should be, or the social parameters. For example, right now I'm 26 years old. Some people may look at my age and say, hey, you need a little bit more experience under your belt. But the amount of impact that I've made, the amount of work ethic that I've created over the course of the last 7 years of being a business owner and entrepreneur, I probably have had over 30 years of experience, not only just from siphoning knowledge, but from the amount of work that I do in a weekly basis has amounted to so many years of experience, because I'm constantly doing things and I'm constantly progressing daily.
I love that, right? I love what you said. You know what? It just triggered me to remind me. I read an article where college professors that teach business, most have never had a business. And this is a true stat. Over 50% have never had a business that made 100K. College professors teaching at prominent schools all over our country. And what you just said, it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen, how old you are. The fact is this, he's 26 years old. He's made more revenue than most college professors have made ever, right? Most college professors just hit 100,000. But I say that because Andy's putting in the reps. And my question to you right now as we get started with this amazing podcast episode is, are you putting in the reps? Are you using your age as an excuse? Are you using your age that you're too young, that you're too old, that, you know what, it's not for me, right? You make excuses for yourself. But the reason is this, is that you don't want to put in the reps. I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I started when I was 44 years old on my journey, and I could have said, no, you know what, I'm too old. But no, you're never too young or too old. So as we start this podcast episode, I want you to do this. I want you to get out your pen and paper right now. This is the part of the show where we say it's time to put pen to paper, because you're going to learn a lot from this young man and a successful business owner, right? He's very, very knowledgeable. Andy Audate, I vouch for him. I validate him. So the golden nuggets that he's going to tell you, write them down, because you retain more information when you write this knowledge down. Because if you just listen to it, it's going to slip your mind. And then what good does it do you? So take notes, because you're going to retain a lot more of the information than you normally would. So Andy, I love what you said, right? Why do you think most people make excuses? I love what you said, right? What you're saying is you're putting in the reps. You didn't care that I was 19. You still went out there and did it. You didn't listen to people. And so many people, we listen to the BS, right? And we don't advance. We don't progress, like you say. Why do you think that is, man? And what did you do to overcome those BS limitations that you had?
Well, first thing, man, is that you made a comment where college professors don't have a business that's doing over $100,000 per year. In 2014, I was in college, and 2013, I graduated high school, and now it's time to go into college. I go into college and I join the business administration and business management. I go into that world. I'm looking at my professor, and I'm like, man, you're telling me like a bunch of theories about like what Coca-Cola did, you know, what Pepsi's doing, you know, what IBM is doing, and that's what I'm learning in business. But what I really want to learn is, how do I go from zero? Because my parents come from a third world country, right? I'm the first generation American. So that means I was the first one in my family, my entire family, to be born in America. Now we have hundreds of people in my family, from little cousins that are born a couple months ago. From me to a couple of, who was born a couple months ago in my family, there's a lot of people, but I was the first one. So that really put a little bit of pressure on me to really create something for the Audate family and the Audate last name. But recognizing that my teacher at the time didn't have a business, he's teaching theories. At the time, I worked for somebody, his name is James, and he owned a cell phone store, and he owned a Metro PCS dealership. And at the time he had 10 locations. Today he has over 170 locations with a couple thousand employees nationwide. But back then it was just him and a couple of stores. So I worked for him, and I compared the two. Do I listen to my professor, or do I listen to the person who actually had the results? And I remember my direct manager, he said to me, you got to drop out of college. And I thought he was telling me to drop out of college so that way I can sell more phones for them, so I can be an employee. And I was like, oh, you're trying to tell me to drop out so I can, sell more units for you. And he's like, nah, man, that doesn't even matter. I'm telling you what I know. So a couple months later, I'm listening to Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker, Eric Thomas.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Eric, and he's like, you got to, want it as bad as you want to breathe and, experience success. And I'm like, you know what, man? I'm leaving the college. I'm going to become a business owner. So I left. I became a business owner, man. And I think what really separates the winners from the people who aren't winners is going to be this idea of fear and failure. And how do you perceive fear? If it's like the biggest thing that's in front of you, one of my mentors, we call him Mr. Lee. He called him a millionaire mentor. He told me about, a lot of challenges that people have is that they put there's like a dot, right? A little dot, and this is your problem. But what happens is that we put it like this. And now we can't see the rest of the world because our problem is so, we focus so much on our problem. So this small little thing, which is my chapstick cover, this small little thing, it comes in front of my eyes and it's covering my entire viewpoint because I think this is the big problem. When realistically, man, just get out of the way, man. You could forget about it. So yesterday I had a call with someone who was going to be my health coach, and I'm constantly investing, hiring people to be around me, right? So I had a call with an individual who's going to be my health coach. And as we're talking, he made a comment. He said, hey, man, do you think of failure? Do you think about failure in your business? And I was like, I know that it's there, like the possibility of failure is there, but I don't even think about it. It's not even a reality. I don't realize it. You know, DG, like when we invest into the stock market or invest into crypto, when you invest into crypto, let's say we put $1,000 into Bitcoin, and then the price of Bitcoin goes down, or our stock goes down. So that means our investment goes down. But when we hold our position in the investment, we have the opportunity for it to go up, for the value of it to go up as well. So that $1,000 can one day be $400, but the next day it could also be $1,500. So that means it can go down and up, but we don't realize the loss or we don't realize the gain until we pull out of our position. Yes. So until we pull out of this is good. Ooh, this is good. Until we pull out of our position in stocks and investing, that's when it's called realizing the loss or realizing the gain. Gain meaning a profit, loss meaning you lost money. So when you pull out your money from a stock, that's when you realize if it was profitable or if it was lost. If you keep it in there, that means you're going up and down, you're going up and down. And I think this is the same with success in business. You're going up, you're going down until you decide to pull out and quit. That's when you realize, that loss or that profit.
You know what? I love the analogy you just gave. I love that, man. But that's real talk, right?
That was pretty good, man.
That's real talk. I love that because so many people in that roller coaster ride, they pull out because they're scared, because they're so used to getting that 9-to-5 paycheck. They're so used to being told what to do. They're so used for certainty. And the thing I think that I see that you're like, dude, you're like me, right? Your back's against the wall. You have nothing to lose. So I'm going to go all in. And so many people, they go into business with 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you're not going to win that way. You're not going to win that way in business. And what Andy just said, ladies and gentlemen, is that when he made the commitment, think about the commitment he made. He made a real commitment. He went against probably what his mom wanted, his dad wanted. They wanted him to go to college, get a business degree, but he was willing to go all balls to the wall, full investment. I'm going to make this happen. And he burned all the bridges. He burned all the bridges. He burned everything, the stairway. He goes, no, there's only one way to go, and that's forward. Yeah. And sometimes you got to have your back against the wall, because that's the only way you're going to go forward. And that's what Andy's saying. So my question to you listening to this podcast episode is, are you fully committed? Because Andy was fully committed. That's how you make a year later, 2 years later, $1 million. And that's how at 26 years old, he's generating $4 million in revenue, right? Think about that. The results you're getting is because maybe you're lacking the commitment. What would you say to that, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a choice, right? When I look at business, I don't have a choice. This is my number one, and this is my only thing, right? The amount of times that I've thought in my life where maybe I should just go get a job, right? Maybe I should have security. It's not even an option, but it looks like it could be real. But to me, I've already committed. It's not an option. I'm going to die an entrepreneur. I'm going to die a businessman, God willing. I'm going to die a businessman. And what I recognize is that you got to go in all in 100%. And realize that you don't have another option. Like, you got to make this work. And I think that's when, when we look at things and we say, hey, if it works, I'll start a business. And if it works, then I'll stay. If it doesn't work, then it's not meant for me. And then it's like, going with that mindset, you will at some point lose.
It's like saying the word, right? It's like saying this. It's like if Andy invites me to go to Las Vegas and have a T-bone steak or a filet mignon. Is, hey, Daniel, come on over, man. This weekend we're going to have a get together. I want you to come over. And if I say, Andy, you know what? I'm going to try. I'll try to be over there. What am I really saying, Andy?
I think what you're saying, what I understood is what you're saying is that is the nicest way to say no.
Yeah.
That is the most least intrusive, least combative way to say no. I'll try. Will you marry me? I'll try.
Yeah. But we say that, but right. They say, well, you know what? I'm going to try this new business venture. No, you can't try. You got to be committed. So let me ask you this. You start your journey, you're doing what you're doing. And I want to paint the real picture here, because there was some resilience there. There was some part of your journey that you lost your confidence. Tell us at that moment, when was it that you lost your confidence as you started your journey to success? And what did you learn about yourself, and how did you regain your confidence, Andy?
What makes you think I lost my confidence?
It's a question that I ask everybody.
There's no loss in confidence. It just heightened. It's heightened. There's always been challenges, but my confidence has heightened. God has been working on my confidence since I was in 6th grade, man. So I never lost my confidence. It just continually grew.
So when was the time that you had your biggest challenge, and what did you learn through that challenge?
I mean, I think every challenge is unique in its own perspective. I mean, I don't know if there's one specific. I may say, hey, one of my biggest challenges, but I think it's all, unique. Every challenge, like I'll tell you a challenge. When I was younger, I have gynecomastia, which is enlargement of breast tissue. And now 5 years ago, I would have never done that to you. I would have never showed it to you. I would have done that to you. I would have never showed you my chest 5 years ago. And this thing made me suicidal at 13, 14 years old because I was scared and I had this fear that I wasn't going to be liked and I was going to be alone. I already felt alone in my home and I was going to be, feeling alone in society. So I was very suicidal at that point. And then God spoke to me because I was looking for someone that, hey, I need to find someone who got the same challenge or the same disease that I do. I need to find somebody. And God, in that moment when I was like thinking about, really taking my own life. I mean, I'm talking about 13, 14. I'm ready to do some damage to myself. He's like, hey, man, I'm going to use you to be that person. I'm going to use you to be that person. And then that's when I realized, okay, I have a bigger purpose than just to be like, someone. I have a purpose to be a leader. And so that's why I'm so confident, right? I got something that was always on me. I can't hide this, right? I can't hide. There's certain things in my body I can't hide. So I used to walk around with the tape like strapped. And I mean, this is the painting tape, DG. I don't ever told this to anyone. This is a painting tape that you put around the house when you're painting to protect, from different elements on the wall. So you put this paint down and then you brush over it. So this is that sticky tape. And I remember I found that in my house and I used to strap my chest flat. And I remember I went out to ask a girl out in like 8th grade or 6th grade. And I went to go ask a girl out. And that's when I realized like, this is not effective. Why? Because when I got home to take the painting tape off, it ripped my skin. It ripped the tissue off because it was so strong. And I left it on for like 9 hours. And I just took it off, boop, and then it ripped it all. And, I was bleeding and all that stuff. And it's like, man, it hurts trying to not be myself. It hurts. Like God put me in position.
Say that again.
It hurts me trying to not be Andy, like who I was supposed to be. Then I realized, man, I thought I couldn't get a girl. I thought like everything in my life was a lie. And I truly believe that was the devil, that was the enemy trying to attack the vision that God gave for me to create in my life. And here's the thing, man. When we see people at different stages of life, I think the feeling of comparing, the feeling of saying I should have or I wish the amount of times that I've said to myself, man, there's an 18-year-old, I'm 26, there's an 18-year-old that has more success than I do. Or there's someone else that, it could be much heavier than I am, and their chest is flat and mine is not. Like, and I'm constantly saying, why this? Why do I lack this? Why do I lack that? Then I recognize in that event that I met you at in Dallas, I don't think you came to the VIP dinner, but downstairs we had a VIP dinner. And there was a woman who rolled you might have saw her. There was a woman who rolled in a wheelchair. She was some type of amputee or I forget, but she rolled in a wheelchair. And then she came to me and she's like, hey, this event was amazing. And I said, share with me why you're in a wheelchair. So she shared with me. And I told her, how did you overcome this? Like, how did you overcome this? And she says, I asked her pretty much about her mindset. Like, where do you get your personal development from? And she's like, I'm thinking she's going to, say Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, Les Brown. And I said, is it Les Brown? And she's like, I don't know who Les Brown is. I haven't heard it. The first time I heard his name was upstairs when you brought him up on your speech. I said, okay, is it Tony Robbins? I don't know who that person is. Eric Thomas? I don't know who that person is. I said, where do you get your personal development from? He pulls up my book. From you. This is a whole new world for me. This is, this mindset thing is a whole new world for me. And I was like, man. So the idea of like seeing other people saying that they're much more successful or, to compare myself to them is a disservice to myself, my vision, and the people that I get to serve with my life.
Yeah,
it's a disservice. Because, for example, we're in a space where there's names you can call out and you think everyone knows that individual. When I hear Tony Robbins, like in my space, in our space, like personal development and growth, when you hear Tony Robbins, you think everyone knows Tony Robbins. And then really, there's a lot of people that they don't even know who he is.
You know what?
They don't know who he is, but they know Daniel Gomez.
You are speaking so much truth.
They know Andy Audate. So we got to look at it like, hey, you know what? We have a certain set of challenges. We have a group, and we could try to compare our numbers. But I think when you look at the impact, every impact is unique, and the magnitude of that impact is greater than you can actually think. You can't put a number on the measurement.
Boom, baby.
It's not on the money. It's not on the finances. That's not what I'm talking about, right? It's not on the money. How can you measure the impact? You can't. Because when someone hears, for example, when someone hears Daniel Gomez speak or Andy Audate, when someone hears you speak, that could say, hey, that's why I'm not going to hurt myself. I came in here to see what I was going to get. But you know what? You just saved my life and you have no idea about it.
Boom,
you
baby.
just saved my life, and you as the speaker, that person could have been suicidal walking into seeing your presentation. It could have been 6 people at this event. And they're looking at this event like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Man, this industry, I don't think it's just this industry. I think it's any business owner. It's easy to measure our own success by the metrics that we understand. So for example, if you host events, you can measure your success by the amount of attendees at an event. Right? Yeah. You can measure your success and be like, oh, but so-and-so got 1,000 attendees. I only had 100, or I only had 50, or I only had 60 or 20 people. Like, damn, I'm not good enough. But when bro, Daniel, I met the love of my life at a seminar. I could have looked at my own seminar. She sat front row, right? We live together now. We're building a life together. I met the love of my life. You can't measure this impact if I had 1,000 people there, or 200 people there, or 2 people there.
Yes. I love what you're saying, man, because I think people need to hear this right now, because I want you to write down what Andy said. His quote was this, right? It hurts not to be yourself. He hurt himself not being himself by taping himself up. And thank you for being transparent and opening that story. Listen to what Andy just said. Write this down. It hurts not to be yourself. So be who you were created to be. Walk in your God-given DNA. Andy tried to be somebody else. He tried to tape his body up and it didn't work. It hurt. It hurt to be somebody else. So if it hurts not to be yourself, just be yourself. Andy is 100% right. He's walking in his gift and he's walking in his authority. And so many times in business, so many times we play that comparison game and we look at the result. We look at the outcome. And what Andy is saying right now, stop looking at the darn outcome. Start looking at the outcome. It doesn't matter if you have a mastermind, you only got 5 people, you got 2 people. It doesn't matter if you have an event, you only have 100 people, if you only have 10 people. Serve the people that are before you, and if you're faithful with the little, God's going to bless you with more. I look at what Andy's saying. If he would have had that big event, he wouldn't have met his wife, his soulmate. So look at yourself right now and ask yourself this question. Who am I comparing myself to? Ask yourself that right now, because Andy's dropping some wisdom, and I know he's speaking from his heart. Stop comparing yourself and walk in that authority of who you are. Walk in your own identity is what Andy is saying. Man, Andy, I'm loving this, man. I'll tell you, as I've met you, I've seen you continue to progress, and I want to thank you for giving our minority people, right, just hope that there's a chance out there. And so many times we've been, I'm not knocking school because my son's going to be a senior next year, but I wasn't a school person, right? But I think so many times we're conditioned to think that you have to be a lawyer, you have to be a doctor to be successful, and it's farthest from the truth. As a matter of fact, you're living proof of that. So I want you to take a moment right now and look into the camera, and I want you to speak to that person right now they feel lost, they don't have an identity right now, they're stuck with the identity of who they were. Maybe they lost their job in 2020. Maybe they got divorced, or maybe they're on the edge of suicide like me and you both were at one time. Talk to that person right now, brother. Look into the camera and speak some life, speak some hope into them if you don't mind.
Well, when you're driving, right, and you come up across a road that you're unfamiliar with, you have 2 options. Option number 1, so I'm talking about you're trying to go from point A to point B, okay? And you're driving, and then you're on a road, you're on a back alley. You're like, how the hell did I get to this back alley? I'm not 100% clear on how I got here. So where am I going next? So you look around and you're like, hey, I'm kind of lost. This is unfamiliar. You have 2 options. Option number 1 is to shut the car off and stay put in that location. Now, there will be no solution. If you stay put, there will be no solution. Meaning that in an hour, in 2 hours, in 3 days, in 5 days, if you stay there for a month, you will stay in that location. At some point, they're probably going to tow your car, whether you're in it or not, right? However, if you decide to keep moving forward, keep driving, eventually you're going to get to a point of hey, I'm familiar with this area. I know this main street. And now you're getting back on track. Eventually, at some point, as you keep driving, you're going to say, I know this street. Oh, we're on such and such street. Oh, if I take a right, I know if I go down there, that's going to be the gas station that I always go to. I know exactly where I'm at. And then you're going to get back on track. And then now, based from that position, now you can go to where you really want it to go. So I think the same thing happens with life. And we can use driving as an analogy for a ton of areas of life. For example, another analogy to understand is that when you get into your car and you're going from point A to point B, it could be like, hey, I got to go to Walmart. I got to go to the restaurant. I got to go to a grocery store. When you get into your car, you don't think about the red lights that's ahead of you. It's when you get there, that's when you deal with the red light and you shift, which is stop. When you shift and you slow down and you stop. So in life, you want to do the same. You want to get in your car, which is your life. You want to get in your car and keep moving forward. And if you're lost right now, at some point, you're going to self-correct and you'll be on the main road and you'll be back on track. So keep moving forward. It's going to come. Believe that. It will come. The second thing is when you're experiencing fear and you're thinking about, if I take this action, this is the negative thing that can happen, right? That red light up the street. You're not even there yet. That red light up the street. Recognize and take the same decision, the same action that you do for your car. And when you get in the car, you're not thinking about the red lights. Just get in the car and drive. If there is a red light, you'll deal with it. If there is an accident, you'll deal with it. If you happen to get pulled over, and you deal with it then. But don't psych yourself up to create a reason why you shouldn't get in your car and drive to the grocery store. That's fear stopping you. So instead of looking at fear, take advantage of life in the opportunity of your lifetime. Take advantage of this and experience some crazy wins. If you don't see it right now, that's fine. That's part of the process. And you're going to learn why it makes sense. You're going to learn why it makes sense. Because I could have been the skinniest guy with the flattest chest. And there's a lot of people like that who are skinny, flat-chested. Essentially, where I wanted to be when I was 13 or 12, where I wanted to be, that don't have confidence and aren't living their best life. So I thought it was because, if I have a flat chest, I'll be where I want to be. But what I recognize is that it started from within. So now that's why I said, Daniel, what made you think I had low confidence? My confidence has always been rising. Even at my lowest, it started there, but it's always been rising because I move forward. So I'm sharing with you, continue to move forward. Watch what happens as you continue to move forward. Watch what opportunities are created for you. Watch what you learn in the midst. Now, today, if there's no millionaire or billionaire that can make me feel a certain way, why? Because I hone in on Andy. But I took something that was really challenging in my life that almost brought me to an end and turned that into something that really pushed me forward. And now I'm unstoppable. Yeah. So I share the same thing with you. Whatever challenge you're experiencing, turn it around and become unstoppable.
This is Daniel Gomez Inspires, and I want to personally invite you out to the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy here in San Antonio, Texas on Friday, September the 10th and Saturday, September the 11th. If you want to get paid to speak, if you're an aspiring speaker who wants to share your story, or if you want more paid speaking engagements, we're going to show you how to apply, where to apply, and we're going to give you a professional speaking reel as part of your platinum package. Call me at 210-663-5954. That's 210-663-5954. It's time to start living your dream and becoming that paid professional speaker. Our graduates have earned thousands and gotten paid to speak. Be one of them. We'll see you here on September 10th and 11th at the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy in San Antonio, Texas. Call me now at 210-663-5954 to reserve your seat now. There's something good in that. There's a lesson for them to learn on that. I love that, man. I love that story. I love that analogy. Think about what Andy just said. The very thing that tries to take your life is the very thing that he used to be his stepping stone. What challenge are you going through right now that it's your tombstone because you're allowing it to be your tombstone? Kick that tombstone down and make it a stepping stone and make it who you were created to be. Look at what Andy's done. He's done amazing for himself. And I want to add some value on the business side of this, Andy. We'll do a little shift here. So If we have somebody here that needs a couple of words of wisdom when it comes to business, what are the three biggest mistakes you've seen in your 7-year journey as a successful entrepreneur? And what's a solution for that?
Becoming complacent, becoming comfortable. That's the biggest thing, like becoming comfortable. And the idea, like I made it. I think, many years ago I retired, right? I made $1 million and I thought that was a good number. But if you realize $1 million is $1,000, 1,000 times. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can make 1,000 mistakes, right? So now, as of most recently, I understand investing. I understand about having dividends. I understand having, residuals and passive and creating systems and businesses that continually. That's now. Earlier on, I didn't know that. I thought cash was cash. So I just used cash. But you could take $1 million and you invest it the right way. You can live on it forever. You just keep on getting that little piece. But number one, don't rest on your laurels. Number two, continue to expand. So find opportunities on how you can get bigger and grow and market yourself. Continue to expand. I think the biggest challenges for small business owners, they don't have a system or individuals that are constantly pushing out their brand in the business to get new opportunities, right? When we look at the world, man, there's 7 billion people. And now even if you put a campaign together to reach all 7 billion people, there are still people who are being birthed that can become your customer in, 25 years, 20 years, whatever the time frame is. So you're constantly creating, you got to constantly create. Right now, there's a group of people in the world that have no idea what Coca-Cola is. They were just born a couple of years ago, a couple months ago. So that's a new customer base for you to work on in the future. So if you want to think small, and just like, hey, my local area, my neighborhood, hey, you're going to die. Your business will die. Your business, your enterprise will die. If you recognize that the opportunity to become successful is so relevant today with social media and technology, if you're constantly putting out so that you can get, you will win. You will win. Why? Because the other people will be fatigued. Your competition will be completely tired, fatigued, and now their personal lives may be fine financially, but their impact, their life's work will completely die with them. So you can't get tired. You can't get tired, no matter how much money you have. It's not even a money mission. It's a spiritual mission here.
I love that, right? It's not a money. Did you write that down? Boom, baby. It's not a money mission. It's a spiritual mission. You know what comes to mind is that scripture that says, as your soul prospers, you will prosper. And that's what Andy's saying. As your soul prospers and grows, you will prosper. I love that, man. Thank you for sharing that. And right, I agree with you. So many times success breeds complacency and we think we have arrived. We think that it's at sprint. And no, the whole thing is just enjoy the journey, but there's always another level. I heard something the other day from Ed Milet that it really inspired me, right? Because he goes, it's not that I don't need a jet. I have one already. But if I can afford to buy a new one, why not? And if I can bless people along the way with the jet ride, why not? And so many times I think as a young entrepreneur, as a young business owner, we think it's all about us, and it's not about us. It's about the people that we serve, and that's what Andy's saying.
Well, it could even hit home, man. I'll give him an example. I'd be hosting a bunch of progression conferences, man. I got one coming up on June 12th here in Vegas. I'd be hosting a bunch of them. So I had a progression conference in Los Angeles, and my personal assistant, flew my mom out. So, many of my employees have company credit cards and debit cards. So she bought a ticket for my mom, flew her out. And my best friend happened to be at that event. My best friend from my hometown happened to be at that event. And so my best friend went into the airport, picked up my mom. I'm on stage. Picks up my mom from the airport, brings her to the event. And my mom, I'm like, Mom, in the back of she's like, hey, I'm like, hey, come over here. Now my mom comes up to the event and she's in the audience, but I bring her up on stage. And when I bring her up on stage, she sees like what her son is doing, right? Since I left home, what her son has been up to. She has never seen me on stage. She's never, she just heard what's going on. Then that inspired her to go and sing, which was her dream. And she put it back in the back burner since I was born. So this is 20 something years, she hasn't sing. Then when she decides to sing, she gets invited to Rome to sing at the Vatican. She's getting invited to India, to France. And, she created a singing business. And now she started this literally within the same couple of months from making decisions. She's getting all these opportunities because it was already meant for her. When I was younger, she would walk around the house doing the dishes, like, singing. She's singing, and it's like beautiful. This was already meant for her. She just had to take the action. But what I recognized, it was that decision of like, hey, you know what? Her seeing her son step out into faith and experiencing a bunch of fear. She said, hey, I'm going to do it too. My son's doing it. Why can't I? And then she did it. So it's sometimes not even about money. It's about the people that you love the most that are going to be impacted by your mission and the work that you do. I'm not even talking about business. I'm not even talking about being on stage. What I recognize is that you have a vision for yourself and for your life. And there's a group of people depending on you to be successful. It could be your child. It could be your grandma. It could be the neighbor, or it could be so-and-so. But you never know what the impact is going to be until you take advantage of it. You can meet certain people. You can inspire certain people. Like DG inspires. He claims it in his name. So you can make an impact into certain people's lives just by you making the decision to go forward and press on for yours.
Amen, brother. Amen. So let me ask you this. As we're coming towards the end of our show, I want to ask you this question. What makes Andy Audate distinctive? What makes you unique, my brother?
I think my tenacity to win, right? For my clients, for example, whatever it takes, I will figure it out and I will win. I have never experienced loss greater than the win that was right behind it. I've never experienced loss that was greater than the win right behind it. So if I experience a down, it's because I have a bigger up on the other side. And then you experience a down and you have a bigger up. That's what progression looks like. It's not this thing of, it's this, hey, you go up and then you experience a loss and then you experience a bigger win. That's what progression looks like. So even for my clients, I do the same thing. So what makes me distinctive is that whatever is in front of me, I will win or I will die. Either one. I will win or I will die. That's what makes me different. I'm putting my life on the line here. I'm putting everything on the line here to create a life and to create some type of win that I've never been able to see or imagine in my life before.
I love what you said, right? And it's true. So many times we just think it's a straight shot uphill to the mountaintop, and it's not. It's a progression. You win, you come down. And I experienced that last year when I was broke my foot. I'll tell you what, that wasn't the way I wanted to end 2020, but it allowed me to regroup. And the first quarter of 2021 was skyrocketed because exactly what you said. You can't set on your losses. You just got to continue going back up. What is a scripture or a quote that Andy Audate leans on when those adversities come? What is a quote or a scripture that you say to yourself during those times of adversity, Andy?
It depends on what challenge, but through Christ, I can do all things, or I can do all things through Christ. And, I'm not religious when I say religious. And I mean, man, there's so much, chatter about being religious and following a specific religion. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I was an altar boy, did all that. And as I got older, my relationship with God has transformed for me to more so be a servant to the vision that God has placed in my heart. And I truly believe that the vision that God has placed in my heart isn't in a book, isn't in certain scripture. I think I can use a scripture as an example. I think I could use a scripture as an understanding of what it means in written form. But the relationship that I have with God is about growth and expanding and really having trust in him. I'll give you an example what I mean by that. In 2016, Les Brown, the number one motivational speaker, I had just came off tour with him. So we travel around the country, going to speak. My role was at FDR, which is going out and sell tickets and get people to come to the events for Les Brown. And once I got off tour with him, I decided to host my own event called the Progression Conference. You're aware. And this was 2016. And as I'm promoting this event, I'm calling different speakers, putting them on my panel, but I completely didn't even think about putting Les on the panel. The reason why I didn't want to put Les on the panel was because of this. I looked at Les as so far up that I couldn't even, ask him. Even though I have a personal relationship with him, I was like, yeah, I can't even ask him. Then as I'm promoting this event, he calls me and he says, Andy, I heard that you're having an event. How come you didn't ask me to speak? I said, Les, I didn't even think I could. He said, I'll speak. Look, I'll speak at your event. And in my head, I'm like, man, I'm going to have the number one motivational speaker at my first event. This is going to be crazy. This is going to be nuts, dude. Les Brown at my event. Let's lock and load. And then at the time, I didn't have it because I made so much money and then I rested on my laurels. I retired essentially for a year. And all that money that I had in my bank account just was dwindling. I was living a luxurious lifestyle and the money was dwindling. So Les Brown says, okay, I'll speak at your event. You know how much I usually charge? Just pay for this, just pay for that, pay for this. The total came out to like $7,000 and change. And I said, damn, I don't have the $7,000 right away. But it wasn't even about the $7,000 because Les said, hey, you have an event in X amount of days. why don't we fill it up and put like 200 people in there? And I was like, yes, let's do it. Let's put 200 people there. Let's have an event. And Les is like, look, I'm in it with you. I'll do this with you. I want to see you succeed. You're under my wing. I want to make sure you're successful. I'm like, let's go. So we're coming up with the game plan. We're like, hey, we're going to do Facebook Lives. We're going to do Facebook advertisements. We're going to do a bunch of things. Les is going to call his connections in Los Angeles. I'm like, man, this is in the bag. And I asked Les the question. I said, Les, let me ask you a quick question. And he's like, he's excited. He's like, man, Andy, this is going to be an amazing event. I'm excited for you. What's your question? I said, Les, I know you're all about this motivation stuff. I know you're all about this, like you can do anything. But let me ask you a question. Do you really believe that we can fill up this event with 200 people? He said, Andy, I was excited about doing this event with you, but actually, I don't even want to do business with you at all whatsoever. We're all done. I'm not interested in doing this event with you. Goodbye. Hung up on me. And I'm like, what? Les Brown just hung up the phone on me. This is crazy. Les Brown just hung up the phone on me. I go to my house. I start panicking. I'm walking back and forth. And I call him back. Doesn't pick up. I happen to know that he was in Los Angeles. Okay. And I know what address he was staying at. Right. It's a small circle. So I knew where he was at. So I drove to his house. It probably took maybe 45 minutes to get there. I took 30 minutes, 28 minutes to get there. I was speeding. So I got there. I ran to the door, knock. And then someone opens the door, and then it's Les's granddaughter. And she's like, Les is not here. He's actually shooting a commercial in Orange County, which is about an hour and a half from where I was at. And I was like, man. So I kept on calling Les. I kept on calling. Because if you know his story, there was an opportunity that he had, and he just kept on calling and showing up for this opportunity. So I thought I was going to do the same thing to him, which was keep pounding the phone. And he sees my, his phone ring 100 times and seeing Andy on the call ID. But after the 9th time, he ended up picking up. And I said, Les, look, give me the chance. I want you to speak at my event. He said, Andy, I'm not doing it. I'm out. I had no idea, Daniel, why he did that. I had no clue why he did that. And right next to where his house was, when I was calling him, right, I left his house. And I walked across from the street was the beach. So I walked into the beach, man. I put my toes in the sand, and I'm like, God, I don't understand. How are you going to give me this opportunity and take it right away? This don't make any sense, man. This don't make any sense. And I'm going at God. And I'm like, God, why you do that to me, man? And then in that moment, there's a few moments in my life where I really feel like I experienced a download. And in that moment, I feel like I experienced a download. He said, you idolize Les so much. I had to use him as an example. Do not doubt yourself, Andy. Do not doubt yourself. Don't doubt yourself. And I was like, damn, that's the message. So I changed. I love Les. He showed me so many powerful things, but I changed my perspective. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to, number one, put anyone above God. Number two, I'm not even going to fight to have Les Brown speak at my event. If it happens through God's will, not mine. So then I kept on moving forward. This is what I was talking about earlier. Keep on moving forward. So I'm going out and selling tickets on my own, going out to, real estate offices, cold calling businesses, car sales companies, presenting to them, selling tickets on my own by myself. At the time, I didn't have a team. And as I'm promoting for Keller Williams, I'm in front of Keller Williams, which is a real estate company. I'm in front of real estate agents, and I'm presenting in front of them. And I'm telling them, hey, come to my event. This is the benefits. This is why you're going to do it. This is the features of it. The whole 9 yards. This is how much it costs. The whole 9 yards. I get a phone call from Les Brown's president at the time. And he says, hey, Andy, I just got a random phone call from Les. He said that he wants to speak at your event, and he was going to charge you $7,000. And now he doesn't want to charge you anymore. He just wants to speak at your event. And I was like, oh, done deal. Let's do it. Let's do it. And then so now Les flew into Los Angeles at the time, and he spoke at my event. And so this is what I mean by, number one, don't doubt yourself. Number two, keep moving forward. I was in a position mentally where I was like, hey, man, like this was my opportunity. And I didn't think that I could win without it. But I then received the opportunity afterwards. And I truly believe it was because I kept on moving forward. So if, the last thing that I want to share with you is when you're in a position and you want to do something extraordinary, that's probably different. At the time, Daniel, I just turned 21, or I was 21 at the time. So when you're in a position and you're like, hey, you're seeing something that's so far and is so unfathomable, just continue to move forward. Just continue to move forward. It'll shape up in alignment for the direction that you have. And don't doubt yourself in the process. It won't make sense in the moment. I don't think it's supposed to make sense. But having that faith of continually moving forward, and I think that's what makes an entrepreneur, anyone successful, different. I'm not even talking about business. It could be in a relationship with your wife. When you're in a fight and you're in an argument and you're thinking, oh, this is it. We're fighting over the dishes. This is it. We should not be together for the rest of our lives. Like, no, keep moving forward with the faith, and you'll see in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, in 3 years, man, everything's going to turn out to be the same. So we ended up packing out that event. That was probably one of the events that I most remember, because we packed it out. It was a life-changing experience, not only for myself. I created new relationships, new clients, new contacts. And I mean, a lot of folks who came to the event, they were shifted with the stories and the understandings. So in that event, for example, we had a woman who I sold her a ticket. It was like $500 or $600 for a ticket. I sold her a ticket to come to that specific event that I'm talking about that happened about 5-6 years ago. And when I sold her that ticket, she came to the event and she had her luggage to the side. And I said, why is your luggage to the side? And she pulled me over in confidence and she told me, Andy, the truth is I'm homeless. I don't have a home. The government gave me a couple $100, it was $900, and that's all I had in my bank account. I don't have a place to sleep right now. I'm sleeping in the car. But she flew in from Las Vegas to LA. And she said, I'm sleeping in a car. I got kids, and they're kind of dispersed around the city. So I'm just trying to make ends meet. And when you gave me this opportunity, I said, I'm going all in. So she paid $600 for a ticket to come to the event, plus flight. She didn't have enough for a hotel room, and she put it all in. Now, then, a couple months later, because I have a database, I type in, when I'm traveling around the country, I'll type in, hey, who do I know in Nevada? Who do I know in San Diego? Who do I know? Because my database is managed that way. So I typed in who is in Nevada, and I ended up going to Nevada to go visit family and friends. I said, who's in Nevada? So I text that woman, and I said, hey, I would love to meet up with you. It's been a while. I go to her house. That's the difference. I go to her house now. And then she's like, Andy, I got to show you. She shows me her beautiful home. It wasn't all the way furnished, but I mean, it was beautiful. She got a pool in the back, the whole 9 yards. Brings me upstairs. She says, Andy, when I came to your event, I was down on my luck. And because I was at your event, my mind shifted. I knew I was possible. Things were possible. She ended up becoming a motivational speaker. She writes books, the whole 9 yards. And she goes around speaking, and she got a job. And now her whole family's living in her home.
Praise God. Because
she showed up, number one. But what I recognize truthfully, I'm not prideful. It's not my ego. But had I listened to my fear, had I listened to my doubt, it would have impacted this woman's life, because she came to the event by seeing the group of speakers that I brought, the stories that I shared, and so forth. It impacted her to make a shift for her kids and her family. So look, DG, I appreciate you having me on the show, but I think it really comes down to this. Keep moving forward, regardless of the circumstance, and do not doubt yourself.
Baby!
Your life, your impact will make a difference in people's lives.
Amen, man. I tell you what, I really enjoyed this conversation, man, this episode. Thank you so much for adding value. And how do we get a hold of you, brother? How do we get a hold of we're going to have, of course, your information in the show notes, but if somebody wants to get a hold of Andy Audate, how do we get a hold of you, my brother?
Yeah, Andy Audate on all social media platforms, ANDYAUDATE. But I want to give everyone here a gift, which is going to be a book that I just wrote. It's called The 7 Keys to Building a $1 Million Brand. A brand that is able to profit $1 million, to bring you $1 million. So if you want that book, to andyaudate.com/7 keys. That's number 7, KEYS. andyaudate.com/7 keys.
There it is, man. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today, Andy. This is a wrap for the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. And if you're stuck in life and business, please visit us at our Show to Faith coaching. Go to www.danielgomezglobal.com. That's www.danielgomezglobal.com. We want to help you get your business unstuck, elevated with our Show to Faith coaching and mention this episode, and we'll definitely get you your 45-minute discovery session at no cost to you. And not only that, join our community here on Show to Faith Entrepreneurs on Facebook. We definitely want you to become part of our family, part of our community. That's Show to Faith Entrepreneurs on Facebook. That's a wrap once again, ladies and gentlemen, for this week's episode. We'll see you next week here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to danielgomezinspires.com and get your copy today. That's danielgomezinspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.